Hello, and we are live. Have you ever had the opportunity to meet some really amazing people and all the people tell you about one guy you need to have on the podcast? And that guy is with us here today. We're going to start in a little bit. Hello, and we are back. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, and I'm really excited of this conversation today. And as we started out, I've been on now, we pushed out about 100 podcasts. And out of 100 podcasts, we had 50 people which said, there's this guy, he is the CEO and co-founder of this company called ClearCOGS. Not only does he transforms restaurants with a really cool AI technology, he's just a really amazing human being, and he is a must for your audience. So I'm excited to have Mr. Matt Wheeler with us here today. Thanks and welcome to the show, Matt.
I'm super excited to be here, although I feel like you've set the bar pretty high already.
So Matt, everybody tells me you are the guy, we need to have you on it. And we just spoke a little bit before we started here. We kind of seeming to be in the same circle. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And a few of my friends said there's just nobody better in restaurant AI than you are. So I'm really excited about that conversation. So for our audience, if you can't see the video, I will invite Matt to talk us a little bit. How did Matt get to where he is? And tell us a little bit about what ClearCOGS does.
Yeah, so look, I'm an ex-owner operator. I was a multi-unit franchisee for about a decade. I've lived in the back of the kitchen. I've worked the double shifts. I've rolled up an apron and slept on the back of the floor, between shifts. It's, that's my prior life. And, one of the things that I always struggled with, especially as we grew and started to have more units is, how do we systematically make better decisions? And it wasn't, rocket science. It was little things like it's 2 hours prior to close. Do I need to bake another cycle of bread? I got 5 assistant managers that are sticking their heads out the door, and guessing, it's just playing it by feel. It was not a great system. We were inefficient and we lost money because of it. And so later on in life, I got into programming and data science, and it just struck me how powerful this technology was. And I felt compelled to do something. And ultimately, that's why we started ClearCOGS, where, we use AI to sit on top of your entire tech stack, suck up all of that data, create a crystal ball of who's going to walk in the door next day and what they're going to do, so that we can help you make better decisions around what to order, what to prep, who to staff.
I absolutely love that. And for our listeners, if you haven't had the chance, you need to guys check him out and follow him what he does. But Matt, talk to us a little bit. What does it mean for a chef, for the back of the house manager, to be partnered with a company like yours?
It's one less thing to do. So, I think that there's so many things going on in the kitchen. We're reacting to everything around us at all times. It's stressful to just constantly be reacting. And so if we can take something off their plate, something that they don't need to think about, and provide some proactive answers, like let's get the right products and the right people at the right places at the right time so that you're prepared. What it means to them is I'm just not having to think about this, and more days going right, instead of falling apart.
For me, being in the back of the house for that long, chefs usually don't like technology because they trust themselves. They don't trust. So how do you go in and convince a chef to come on your program?
It's usually we're convincing the owner or the operations team, the finance people who want to make more money. And ultimately, those aren't the people that are using it. At the end of the day, it is the guy in the kitchen. And as much as we can do to not change operations, we try to. So, the vast majority of our restaurants, we support via email. It's not another SaaS platform that they need to log in and figure out. It's, how do I take the current prep sheet that you use every day and digitize it and send it to you via email, all filled out, so that it's one less thing for you to think about. And, if you take the time to do the tech for them, it makes a difference.
And you have a really innate ability to kind of break it down and simplify it. And when people hear you speak, you very often talk about that difference between predictive and prescriptive analytics. Talk to us a little bit what that means for the guy in the back of the house.
All right, so it's a loaded question. So I like to think about it as almost like directions, right? I could say that on average, it takes you 15 minutes to get from point A to point B. That's descriptive statistics, right? Then I could have predictive, where I could say, hey, here is the best route on average to take. And then there is prescriptive, based on all of the traffic patterns going on right now, and this road being closed, this is the optimal route for you. We play in that prescriptive side. So it's not more reports of what has happened, it's what can I do today to actually impact what those the P&L looks like next month.
We absolutely, in the back of the house, we love that. And the whole idea of data-driven decision making, I think, needs to become a little bit more mainstream. And I think a lot of people do it, and your software is absolutely amazing at it. So let's break it down really simple. My location I work at said, hey, they're partnering with you. What's happening on day one when we start switching our program to you? And how and when do me, as the back of the house guy, see a benefit of it?
Yeah. So as far as our process goes, it really within a week or two, we can have a system set up and you're able to get numbers. And I think one of the things that's, most impactful is the fact that you don't actually need to operationalize this on day one to see if it's
Yeah.
going to work for your brand. So I could send you over exactly what we tell you to do on a given day. And you can look at what your operation actually did and see what the savings would be for you, or how well it would have worked, and kind of allay those fears, because there is nothing more destructive than asking your general manager to bring in some new thing and change their processes if it's not going to work.
I love that. So for me, I'm also a little bit more interested on Matt as a person. So Matt, you said you were an operator. When was that pivoting point for you to say, this is not for me. This is not who I meant to be. I'm meant to make an impact on a greater scale. Talk to us a little bit. When did you realize that you needed to make a switch? And how did you make that switch? Because there's a lot of chefs and culinary and hospitality owners out there which know, hey, listen, I need to do something different. They look at themselves in the mirror in the morning, say, I wish I would be further ahead by now, or I thought I would be further ahead by now. How did you make that pivot?
Yeah, I mean, it was the culmination of a lot of factors. I had kids, and you're working 90 hours a week and you're not there for the family. Is that what I want my future to be? But I think that it really comes down to this. I was a franchisee. I was Jimmy John's franchisee, and I give Jimmy John's all the credit in the world. When I started out, I was 21 years old. I knew nothing. I didn't know anything. Like, they gave me the playbook to success, and my job was to go in every day and execute that playbook. And we were successful purely because I followed their instructions. But I kind of became obsessed. Like, I loved the stuff that wasn't in the playbook, that 5% that wasn't there. That's what really gave me energy.
So
But I didn't
what
get to
you
spend much
telling me,
time on
you are the guy which the franchisees hate because you can't
it.
follow the rules.
Franchisors. Yeah, the franchisor for sure.
Yeah.
No, I probably, that's a little glib. No, I had a great relationship with the franchisor, and actually, some of the things that I came up with, they implemented, and I was
Mhm.
really great to see. But I was kind of obsessed with this idea of, if I could spend maybe 50% of my time getting to work on the things that weren't in the playbook, that
Yeah.
was a happier life for me.
I love that. And again, being the franchisee, you have a pretty predictable income. And there's security in that. And you also said you had some family. Again, there's a lot of chefs out there. How do you make that pivot? So, you know what, I take that leap. Is it pure fate? Talk to us a little bit. How did you make that pivot from knowing that you have a consistent income coming in if you keep doing what you do?
I would say, I mean, that was the toughest thing for me. And you kind of look at it; it's such an interesting, unique industry that I had 100 employees, running a
Hmm.
multi-million-dollar business. Yet,
Yep.
I'm not sure how that transfers into the corporate world. And so I ended up, by fortune, going and getting my MBA from Duke. And that was my kind of launching pad to, let's say, switch industries that ultimately I ended up coming back into.
So you have that idea, you make that pivot. What is the first call you make?
Boy, I made a lot of calls, and all of the really smart people that I knew from the restaurant industry said, Matt, why are you going to get your MBA? You've already got your MBA in actual like school of hard knocks. Like this is a waste of your time. And I think that's what made it such a hard decision was, all of the people in my life that I really respected said, I think you're doing the wrong thing. But when you're really like consumed by something where like it like eats at you, like you're in the wrong spot, you're able to kind of say, okay, I know that that's your opinion, but I feel compelled to move forward.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the place I found myself in.
I love that. So you feel you compelled to move forward, but there's always that little bit of doubt in the back. How do you overcome or how do you push it aside? Because look at overall, and especially in our industry, they're saying every new restaurant 30 and percent fail first year, 60% year two, 80+% year three. And now you as somebody who provides a service to these businesses which have no longevity, how do you go through that? How do you justify it's not to yourself but to your family that you make a pivot like that?
Look, I mean, again, I started out in restaurants at like 21. My first restaurant was a turnaround. It was, a total disaster. My second store opened up at 50% what the national average was. My third
Mm.
store didn't open up great. Like we had to turn all of those operations around. You know, Running restaurants puts you through the ringer. And, once you've gone through that and you're on the other side, it all doesn't look that terribly risky. I'm going to get out of the restaurants and try something new. It can't be any harder than what I've already done.
Again, I relate so much to that. I had my first restaurant at 19, and we had a salad bar. And this is now, 35 years ago. A salad bar in the dining hall, and I was such a genius. Oh my God, Christian is such an innovator. He put a salad bar up front. Behind the scenes, the truth was I couldn't find staff. In France, it was more necessity than ingenuity. And, we built 6 in a very short period of time. So for me, when I hear you say that, it's so related that it kind of brings me back. How the hell are we going to put the food out tomorrow? I can't cook and serve. And, so it was one of those. So now you have the software. Talk to us about the process. Did you always have in the back of the mind? Did you have a prototype somewhere? And one of our messages to the chefs is that they all have transferable skills. What was your transferable skills, and how did you get it from idea out to an actual product?
Yeah, let's talk about the transferable skills. So the one thing that restaurants trains you on better than anything else is people. It is a people-centric world. People managing people, serving people, and in that world of people, you learn how to lead people, how to motivate them, give them a sense
Mm.
of purpose. And I think that if there's one thing that has led to any success in my life, it's what I learned, on the floor of the restaurant interacting with people. And the reason that we've been able to do what we've done with ClearCOGS is not because of me. I'm not an enterprise programmer. You don't want me running an AI system, but being able to bring those people in that can is something that I learned, early on in the back of the house.
Mhm. And I love the good explanation on how you see new stuff from transferable skills. But again, there is that period, and especially in our industry, where people have an idea. They know people saying, I know this would sell. How do you make, again, I want to come back. What went on inside of Matt saying, I need to push through this? I have an idea. I have this product. How am I going to put it out to the marketplace? Am I going to use my own money? And you hear this all the time in the restaurant industry. Did you use somebody else's money? Kind of give us or share with us a little bit how you made this happen.
It was slow and iterative. So this was one of those that I saw something here. I called up my cousin, I remember, and asked him what he was doing for analytics and reporting. His answer was, I use the Excel spreadsheet you gave me. It's 10 years old at this point. It's like, wow, if this is really what they're doing, I think we can do better. And so it's when I called my co-founder Osa, and thank goodness for him. He is great at product and great at interviewing people. And we put together a very simple, minimal viable product. And I gave it to my cousin, and it was just, systemizing their daily prep. And, this magic thing happened where we cut their waste by 50%. And it was,
Oh,
and that's 6 months or 9 months from, the beginning to the end. But it was like, wow, this works. And I think it was that really, gave us the confidence to say, okay, let's not take any other jobs. Let's live off our savings for a little while and go launch a company.
I'm just really fascinated by, doing this. So you called up your friend. Talk to us about that conversation. You said, hey, I have this idea. Talk to our listeners a little bit. How did that conversation go? And how soon did he say yes?
All right, Christian, it was crazy. So Osa did not believe any of this. Like I said, there's $100+ billion a year that's being wasted in restaurants because people are just guessing. He said, there's just no way. And I probably put him in front of 20, 30, 40 restaurant operators. And finally, the last one, he asked, what's that behind your ear? And Osa asked the restaurant guy, he's like, yeah, it's my pencil. He's like, why do you have a pencil? He's like, well, I got my clipboard here. I got to write everything out. And he's like, Matt, I get it. They're literally running this business by pen and paper. He lives in a world where they're putting computer chips in people's brains. It's like, I cannot believe that, people are operating, on pen and paper. And that was for him, the moment where he's like, okay, I get it. I believe it. I think we can do something.
So you have this thing, you convinced your clients. So or your partner, what are some of the common challenges you see in the restaurant, and how does your product help solve that?
Well, look, it always comes back to the same three things. It's food cost, it's labor cost, and it's revenue. And everybody and
Mhm.
their mother has done a whole lot of work on helping you with revenue. The back of the house, though, has just been incredibly neglected. And so fundamentally, there's 10 or 20 decisions each day that you make. Who do I staff today? Do I need to cut somebody early? What do I need to have prepped? If I'm a barbecue place, how many briskets do I need to smoke today for
Yep.
tomorrow? And if you get those 10 or 20 questions correct each day, you make substantially more money,
Mhm.
and what we do is systematically use your data and look at, let's use that brisket as an example, how much brisket you're using every 15 minutes and have been for the past 10 years. And just like a
Mhm.
great manager would look at, how does the day of the week affect? How does the month of the year, are sales trending up? Is it going to rain today? How do all these factors, play into it? Once we
I
put all that data together, use all those variables, we can give you a highly accurate answer on this is the number of briskets that you need to have today. Yeah.
No, absolutely right. Going back, what you did, you were ahead of your time. So how old is your company today?
We're about 3 years old.
Yeah. So where do you feel that whole idea of data-driven decision making is going? And that's actually a twofold question. What role first does data-driven decision making make in today's restaurant? And looking at the product you have, how do you see AI in particular transforming those operations using your product?
Yeah. So I almost want to go to the sports analogy. The way that we currently run a restaurant is incredibly reactive. We just see who comes in the door and we play it by feel.
Mhm.
I kind of put that up against, you look at the NFL and it's like, do the analytics say we go for it on fourth down? What is the right play at this time? We don't run our restaurants like that today. And
Mhm.
there's really no reason why. We have the data, we can make data driven decisions. I think that the core part is it's really hard to do that. And nobody's providing a simplified way of getting to those data driven decisions. And so that's fundamentally the hole that we're looking to fill. I could elaborate on that, or would you like me to talk about the
No,
whole AI
it's
world?
so good. So good. I wanted to elaborate on it because chefs will relate to what you just said. And I think if our listeners haven't done so, go back 15 seconds, listen to what he just said again. He makes it sound really simple, but it's a crucial part for you to be successful on a daily basis. So go a little deeper. Help us understand a little more about that.
Okay, imagine a slider, something really simple. You've got a
Mhm.
decision. It's how many bagels do I need to bake this morning? Imagine a slider where on one side you could slide it over and say, I never want to stock out, right? Well, the cost benefit decision there is how much waste am I going to have versus my risk of stocking out? How do we
Mhm.
allow you to look at, okay, if I want my stockouts to be 1% of the time, 3 times a year, my waste is going to
Mhm.
be $10 a day. Is that right for me? Or maybe I'm okay running out once a week and getting my waste from $10 down to $1.50. That's a decision that any owner, operator, manager can make and optimize for their business. And what AI is so good at is if you give it that information, we can come up with the magic number that if you baked this many bagels today, you'll achieve that goal on average.
So good. So good. Again, if our chefs listening today, you guys need to check out what ClearCOGS does and the impact it makes. Matt, I can talk to you forever. I'm totally geeking out by some of the stuff. My mind is already going, hey, we need to do this in some other places. What are some of your features which make you the market leader in that?
Well, frankly, no one's really doing a whole lot in this space.
Mhm.
There's a lot of noise in the market. Everybody's saying we're helping you make data-driven decisions and better decisions around your food costs. But frankly, the technology companies have failed on this. And the marketing departments do a great job. But when it comes to the technology, no one's really building things for this pain point in restaurants. And so it's left this odd little gap open for us. But I think what I'd like to think, the thing that separates us is the fact that we're a lot of operators that have a
Mhm.
whole lot of empathy for operations. And, it's something that weighs on me. Every time we send a number out to a restaurant, if we get that
Yeah.
number wrong, somebody's going to have a really, really bad day. But I'm
I
curious your
when I
thoughts on this. So why,
Yeah.
when you think of data-driven decision making in restaurants, where are you seeing that?
So that's a really good question. So for me, it's twofold. Number one, the idea for me, and we've been doing for me, everything I do, I track everything I do. It's hard to get better at anything you do. People saying, oh, you wear two Apple Watches. No, one of your Apple Watch, the other one is a Whoop, because I want to know, do I recover the way I need to, and everything else. So I track everything. I track how much time I spend at work, how much time I spend. People call it a little bit obsessive, but for me, I love data-driven decision making overall. But in the industry, I think it needs to take the next level. We all work on a platform which was built in the 50s, 60s. The kitchens today are built from a platform from the 50s, 60s. It's due for a major overhaul. And I honestly believe AI will do three things. It will make us smarter in whatever we do. I think it's going to reform our healthcare. I think our healthcare is going to be better with AI. I geek out on AI. I just read a report from the Harvard Public School Health. They were saying that currently, if there is diagnosing a patient, they have the best of the best doctors that got together, and they were about 54% effective or accurate. There's already a few different AI tools out there which are correct in about the 80% in a very short time. They will take over for that. So it will reform healthcare. And the third thing is it will reform how we consume anything. And for me, I look at it, how great would it be if Whoop is married to your product? I go into a restaurant and the restaurant tells me, hey, based on your recovery, this is what you need to eat. This is how you need to consume. This is the beverage you need to drink. So it helps me personalize everything. And in the back of the house, there's no waste. For me, I love what your whole company stands for. The end of the day, it doesn't make a difference how great the product is you put out. It's good for business. It's not good what goes out the back door. And 10 years ago, I had a German chef who worked with me who weighed out garbage every day. And he says, by the garbage, I know if we had a good night or if we had a bad night. And it's so true. It doesn't make a difference how great the food is walking out the door if you throw out your profits and the tail end. And for me, that's why, I'm here telling all of our listeners they need to check out what you do. Not just check out what you do, is partner with you. And if any of our listeners are on the fence, please run over to his company and sign up today, because you will see a huge saving. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And we can't consume the way we currently do. It's not a sustainable future. We need people like you, which help us consume smarter and produce smarter and have less waste. So that's what I really love about this. And I can talk to you all day about this, but I'm interested a little bit more. What is ClearCOGS working on? Can you allow our listeners to look a little bit behind the curtain? What are some future plans? What are you doing with the company? Where do you want to take it? Where do you want to partner with? What is your wish list for ClearCOGS?
Look, I'm consumed by one question. I want to answer one question. And that is, for every restaurant operator, when they wake up in the morning, they should be able to ask their restaurant co-pilot, what do I need to know today? And that should be able to give them, instead of searching through reports, instead of having to go, call all of their team. We're short-staffed in this store. The price of tomatoes is up and it's affecting the profit margins for these different items. Online ordering still shut off in store number 572. What are the things that I need to know? Because if we can get restaurant operators no longer managing the analytics and the metrics of the business and can instead allow them to focus on the people and the experiences, we're just going to have such a better industry.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So my last question before we pivot a little bit, and our listeners know there's going to be a rapid fire question coming. So Matt has not seen the question, so we want to see his insights there. But Matt, talk to us a little bit. What is a success story of one of your client? What is the impact they're seeing? What was not just from an operational and financial piece? What is also for the sense of, or from the whole mindset piece? What was the impact on your most successful operation there?
So look, the average restaurant that's working with ClearCOGS increases their profitability by 40%.
That's amazing.
It blows me away every day. I mean, I get the text messages of, it's been the first month, here are the results, and it's always humbling. One of the clients that we went to work with early on, great group out of LA. They do a commissary style operation where they're distributing everything out to all of their different locations. First class management team that came from a big corporate parent, and they were skeptical. They said, we run a tight operation. We don't know how useful this is really going to be. I got a call from them at the end of the first month in the first location. They saved $6,800 on the bottom line, which, I mean, for any of you that aren't an owner operator or aren't from around restaurants, that is life-changing money. This is the difference between, can I make payroll, or can I give raises, or do I stay in business? You had a couple percentage points the bottom line for most operators, it changes their life.
It's not that. I think it's more than that. Having that extra money is the difference between growing and scaling. And that piece of money, I love what you said, it's that peace of mind. It could be, I can finally take care of my people. And for me, that little gap is, for me, the decision maker. Do I stay open, stay closed? Do I grow? Do I scale? Do I shut down or stay open? And for me, that little gap is, I think, not just where mindset and peace of mind lives, where your future lives. And not taking advantage of it is foolish. So if you are in an operations, our listeners, you guys need to check it out and hear it out, what they have to say. It's absolutely amazing. And having that success at the bottom, you can have 15 or 20 less customers and have the same profit. It's amazing. So Matt, before we pivot into our questions, I want to just say thank you for being here and sharing so freely about what you do and where your company is going. If Matt wouldn't have ClearCOGS, what would Matt do?
Boy, I can't even picture what I'd be doing. So probably woodworking. I love woodworking. And one of the things I thought when I left restaurants was, I'm never getting into another low margin business that, I would so much rather, instead of working 365 days a year, 18 hours a day, and having 50 employees running that business, I would much rather have like one person do 200,000, sell furniture, and have a healthy profit margin. Maybe that's a simple way to look at it. I also love making things out of wood.
It's really cool. If you wouldn't be a restaurant operator, what would you be besides a woodworker? And if you would have to start it over, what would you start over?
I would have gone into programming. I love programming and analytics. I don't know what it is, but whatever language it's written in is exactly how my brain thinks. And I so wish I would have done that at an earlier age.
I love that answer. And to our listeners, that's exactly why we do this show. There's a guy runs a highly successful franchise business. Okay. He feels the urge of doing something else. You acted on it built a very successful business around it. And when asked the question, what would you do? I would do programming, because we all have those transferable skills. We all have more than what we think we can do. And all we need is somebody who believes in us, what others or we selves don't believe in ourselves. And for me, you're just a perfect example of what this podcast and show is all about. And you are exactly the person we're speaking to, because we believe everybody has that. And for me, I also like woodworking, by the way, Matt. There's something not peaceful about it, but there's something really, graceful around building something and seeing taking shape. And for me, woodworking this, and I think that's why I became a chef. So Matt, for our listeners, can you tell them a little bit about where they can find you, how they can follow you, how can they consume your content?
Yeah, so you can get on clearcogs.com and sign up for a meeting right there. We love talking with restaurants. It may not be a fit for us or for you guys, but it's always worth the conversation. We're there to talk with you. Please follow us on all the social media channels. We're pretty active.
And he is out of the city of brotherly love. So if you guys have ever the opportunity to get down to Philadelphia, make sure you guys look him up. And if you haven't done so, to our listeners, if you find value in this episode, make sure you share it with a friend. Make sure you earmark it. Leave us some comments. We read every single one of them. If there's a bad comment, we send it to Matt. If there's a good comment, we will answer that. But Matt takes all the bad ones. And if you haven't done so, get to disruptivechef.club. Go out there and join our private community. It's absolutely for free. It's not kind of free. It's absolutely for free. And we do special events just for them, where we're going to go a little bit deeper and share some really free, cool new things. So with that, Matt, let's pivot into our rapid fire question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So as it comes, go out. There's 3 simple questions we have for you. Number 1 is, if giving the coding power to kill one ingredient for the restaurant industry, what is that ingredient, Matt, and why?
Fish sauce. I don't know why, but I hate fish sauce. I know it's a polarizing subject. I'm going to get a couple negative comments there, but not a fish sauce guy.
You just insulted the whole culture, which loves fish sauce. And how about, Matt, given the same power, what dish needs to go away tomorrow?
I've got no good answer on that. I have no idea what dish I would just remove.
I love that. So for me, I'm Austrian. We love a really good Wiener Schnitzel, covering with a gravy like the Germans do. Somebody just needs to kill that tomorrow. Let it be. Let it be a Wiener Schnitzel and bask in the gloriness it is. It doesn't need to be covered with gravy, but that's my personal thing. So Matt, last question for you. What is a kitchen gadget you feel is way overrated?
Well, I think the whole robotics things in kitchens is a little overrated. I think that, eventually as we retrofit, true robotic kitchens with, well thought out machines, it probably makes sense. But, today that little robot that stands there and, runs the fryer station, I just don't see it. It looks dangerous and clunky and not a great one.
I was just at IFT in Chicago last week, and they had this robotic arm which cooks exactly that. It dips the fryer, the French fries, and everything else. Seems to be an expensive product just to do a simple old French fries. So I absolutely love that. So
I do like the cold tables that do like fill the bowl for you, like that. I get that makes sense.
They also had a guy scooping ice cream. There was a few other things. Head robotics was pretty prevalent in the whole show, or a piece of robotics in some other operations. So it was really, really cool. So Matt, I want to say thank you for being here today. Any final words of wisdoms for our listeners out there today?
Hey, whether it's restaurants or technology, it all comes down to people, finding great people, motivating them, giving them a sense of purpose. It's one true thing that seems to have always been the case in my life.
Awesome. Thank you. With that, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for our listeners. Again, if you haven't done so, make sure you check out the disruptivechef.club. Share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues. It's amazing stuff out there. And we're always trying to inspire culinary innovation from front of the house to the back of the house. With that, remember, until next time, fire up your career. Stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the Disruptive Chef, entrepreneur host, here with my special guest, Matt. Thanks again for being here today.
Christian, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are signing off. We are out of here. So until next time, remember to be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Until our next episode, go out there and stay disruptive. Thanks, everybody.